Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So today we have a webinar for our MSP portal. If you have logged on to the cloud recently, you might have seen a button there on the left-hand side of the screen, which is our MSP portal page. So maybe some of you are puzzled or curious on what it does. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you just logged in, again, we'll be talking about the MSP portal. This session will be recorded as usual. So I'll be uploading this video under YouTube, and then it will be uploaded on EnGenius Academy as well. So let's proceed. So any questions, you can just type it on chat or use the Q&A function on Zoom. So before I go to MSP portal, I want to discuss a bit about cloud updates. So we've added, apart from the MSP portal, we've also added a few updates on the cloud, which I believe would interest a few of you. So one of that is application analysis. So in the past, we have layer 7 awareness or application analysis, which is available on a global view. So you can have a holistic view under the organization or the network to see what are the most commonly used apps client browse or clients access, where your bandwidth goes, if it goes to YouTube, if it goes to Facebook browsing, if it goes to like torrenting. So that information will be displayed in general. A lot of clients have been requesting to have this function enabled on a per client basis as well. So we've just recently added this on the cloud. So now if you click on one of your clients on your client list, then you can view the applications. So at the moment, we have the daily view enabled for everyone under basic or pro. And then for the weekly view and monthly view, that is under the pro license. I'll go over the user interface in a while as well. So another option that have been mostly requested by clients is to view the most visited URLs on the network. So we do have traffic logs. So traffic logs would allow you to view the destination port, the destination IP address, private and public, including the source information as well. Source MAC address, source IP address, source port. So you can view the traffic on the network. So I understand that some countries require this. Some governments require this to capture the data in case they need it. But under traffic logs, that's mostly raw data. So you have IP address, MAC address information, but you cannot see exactly what is the public URL that the person visited. So now if you enable client visited URL reporting, you can extract this on an external web server. Nothing is stored on our cloud. So when you do so, then your visited websites would appear there. So visited websites under the wireless connection. We also have an option now under the gateway side, SD-WAN series, to prioritize the failover functions. So right now on the gateway, we have two WAN ports and one USB slot for cellular connectivity. So in the past, the cellular connectivity would always be your third failover option. That means if the primary WAN fails and secondary WAN fails as well, or maybe there's nothing plugged on your secondary WAN connection, then that's the only time that it's going to use your cellular connection. So now there is an option to have your primary WAN your first priority. Second priority would be your cellular dongle, and then third priority would be your secondary WAN. This is used for some clients who may have subscriptions that are consumption based. Maybe their secondary WAN connection, secondary ISP is maybe using VSAT or is maybe used just for emergency services, like the last resort if you really have no data. So for clients like that, we can prioritize the cellular connection first after the before the secondary WAN. So you can easily select this under our SD-WAN menu. So let me go over the user interface real quick to show you those updates. Okay, so first is the client application analysis. So like I mentioned, we do have this function, but it's for the whole organization and network. You wouldn't be able to identify who, for instance, used TikTok or who has been using Apple resources on the cloud, which consumes some bandwidth. So now if you select a specific client, so let me select my PC here. So I now have three tabs. So first is a client timeline. You can view this if you have the pro license. Exposure analysis. You can view this if you have the pro license and if you have enabled a security setting, which is under here. And then the third tab, which is the new one, is application analysis. So now I can view each individual client's consumption of bandwidth. So here I can see, for instance, Microsoft updates, Skype connectivity, Amazon connections, and so on and so forth. So I can see all that bandwidth right here, upload and download. So we can set that to a monthly view so we can see the overall consumption. So most of it goes to TLS, and then we have Google services, Windows updates if it happened, WhatsApp messaging. So that would appear right here. So this would allow you to be um, it will allow you to view the specific consumption of individual clients and to know who amongst your clients consumes the most bandwidth. If you see, for instance, torrents being downloaded on the overall view, then maybe you can find that specific client under here once you have gathered that information. So right now there are tons of applications that are supported. I believe almost all applications that are available would be shown here, so long as their ports are publicly listed. So for example, PlayStation services, Apple Store services, so you would see that type of information as well. So going to the second update, which is the URL visited, so that will be under configure and then general settings. So from general settings, you would go under your access points because right now we can have that redirected on the wireless side. On the bottom part, you have your advanced settings. And then here you have the client visited URL reporting. So you can enable this even if you don't have syslogs enabled here up top, even if you didn't enable traffic logs. If you just want to view the recent or the most visited URLs. So you can key in your server IP here, any syslog server, any logging server, key in your pre-shared key if required. And then from there, all the information from the wireless side, if the client is browsing the web, would be extracted to that external server. Last update under the gateway side would be for the WAN prioritization if you're using failover. So let's say you have a couple of WANs enabled. Sorry, let me switch to a different network. So let's say you have a couple of WANs enabled and then your load policy is failover instead of load balance. And then you have your cellular connectivity as well. So now you can select your prioritization, whether you want the default setup, which is primary WAN, and then failover secondary WAN, and then your cellular dongle, or have it reverse. So primary WAN, cellular dongle, and then secondary WAN. So again, this makes it useful for clients who are utilizing um, multiple ISPs, and maybe some of your backup ISPs are limited in terms of your data consumption. Maybe it has a cap on your bandwidth consumption per month. So here you can quickly address that. So let me go back to my slides. Yeah, so a major topic for today would be MSP Portal. So a lot of clients have recently provided us feedback in terms of managing multiple organizations. Now the cloud has grown since 2019. It has grown a lot. So a lot of clients are now managing or juggling between different networks, different organizations. Some of the clients, especially MSPs, maybe they are managing multiple clients, 10, 20, 30 at the same time. So on their account, once they log in, they would see when they expand their drop down for the organization networks, they would see a lot of organizations there. A lot of clients have been asking of a way to group these organizations together or to manage your team members amongst these individual organizations instead of having to go to each organization one by one. So for the MSP portal, I'm sorry if you hear background noise. My dog is acting up a bit. So here, most of our clients for MSPs, they experience difficulties in managing individual support members. So like I mentioned, if you have multi-tenancy and then you have, let's say, 50 organizations, in the past, you're going to have to log in to individual orgs, configure your team members, add your team members, which ones are the admins, which ones are the viewers, and then move on to the next org, do the same, and so on and so forth. What if you have a client, maybe it's just divided into different organizations, and then you have an administrator that you want to apply to all those different orgs. So there is a simpler method now, which I will show in a while. Next is license and inventory tracking for all customers. So same thing with team members. If you have a lot of organizations, that means that you have a lot of inventory that you need to track. How many APs there are, how many switches, gateways in total. If you have licenses, then you're going to have to go to individual organizations to track when will my license expire for a particular client, or if you just want to simply check if you have APs that are online or offline, or maybe, yeah, in terms of license tracking, see which one is about to expire. Maybe some of you rely on alerts, push notifications from our EnGenius Cloud to Go app. Now, again, on the MSP portal, it would be a lot easier to track those, which I'll go over in a while. A common pain point for MSPs is setting up sites from scratch. So, if, for example, you have established an organization, already have a network. So, within the org, you guys are aware that you can easily clone the network. But what if you want to clone this network, but put it on a new org, on a separate org? Or maybe the same org structure is already there on your setup, on your account. You just want to establish a new organization with the same exact settings as before. You want it to be separate for some reason. So now we have the option to clone organizations and clone networks as well, even if they're not on the same org. And then login management. So managing team members is easy on the cloud. So all you need to do is key in an email address, select your role, admin or viewer, and then that's it. But again, if you're managing multiple organizations, it may be a difficult task because you have to do that repeatedly, especially if you have a lot of team members. If you have, let's say, Windows Active Directory, in the past, you're not able to integrate. So we have something for that as well. So lastly, a common pain point for MSPs are the auto updates. So auto updates for cloud is simple. All you need to do is select a schedule in a week. For instance, Sundays 2 a.m. Maybe this is the time you want to upgrade your APs or switches or gateway. So you can individualize it depending on the device. But that schedule may not always match the end user schedule. Maybe the end user is operating 24/7. Maybe the end user doesn't want any downtime at all. So what's our solution for that? So first is team management. So under EnGenius Cloud MSP Portal, we now have an option to have your team management managed across multiple orgs. So in the past, if you're doing this individually per org, you can have one major MSP administrator. So it's like your super admin who can see all the different teams, all the different organizations in one glance. So from here, you can easily manage different inventory, different licenses, and assign different team members per org as well. So it's also fully customizable. So for instance, under your MSP team portal page, you can add several groups. So maybe a group of administrators, a group of viewers, or a custom view, meaning maybe some of those members or administrators on certain orgs. Some of them are not. Some of the orgs are not visible to them. So you can create multiple groups depending on the category or depending on the view that you want them to see, on how many orgs they're managing and which orgs are visible to them or not. So you can also customize this under the network level. So let's say, for example, North support team cannot see network 2. Central support team will see everything. South support team may be a select network only. So you can customize that as well. So under MSP teams, like I mentioned, you can create multiple groups. There is no limit on how many groups you can create. Now, under the groups, then you would put in your teams. So, for example, you need to customize it per org, so you can do that straight away. If I add a person under this group, for instance, then he would be automatically an admin of all the orgs that you're managing, or the ones that you have pre-selected him to manage. So under team management is as easy as before. You just have to key in the email, but now you have to do it once only. So you don't have to do it per organization, since you can just select which group they belong to. So by the way, we also have this MSP administrator role. So the MSP administrator is the one that can access the portal. You can add multiple MSP administrators. There's no limit to that as well. So later on, I'll go over that too. So next is the MSP dashboard. So we have this dashboard per organization, which you can see how many devices are there, or individual networks, how many APs are offline, online, how many licenses are there, etc. So in the MSP dashboard view, you can select which organizations belong to this dashboard. So in a glance, you would see how many devices there are on all those organizations. Let's say here there are 5. And then so under that, those 5 organizations, there are 200 devices, 20 gateways, 20 switches, etc. So you can also see immediately if there are licenses that are about to expire. So immediately you wouldn't have to scroll through all your organizations or scroll through your alerts or the logs to see which of your licenses are available or that you need to alert your end user to extend or not. So you can see all those in a glance right away. So in terms of MSP inventory and license management, so like I mentioned, all the licenses that you have across all your organizations will be displayed on the same screen. So you'd be easily alerted if some licenses are about to expire, who registered which specific access point across your team members, across all your organizations. So everything can be seen in one view instead of having to go to one by one. So this allows the super admin or the main MSP admin to manage all individual sites easier. If let's say you're in the middle of a deployment, you can quickly track if the AP is already deployed, how many haven't been added to a network yet, how many haven't been registered on the organization yet. So you can see all those information as well. So in terms of cloning networks and organizations, so now you have an option to clone the org. So again, for example, customer A, he has one tower. You already have your organization there. Maybe under the organization, it's divided into different networks. Maybe for admin, for staff, for guests. Maybe it's how they divided the networks. Now you want the same end user has another tower, same structure, so three networks as well: admin, guests, and staff. So instead of having to rebuild all those networks, rebuild the whole organization configuration, all you need to do is clone it, and that's it. You just have to maybe do some minor tweaks if you want to change the SSID or the password. If you want to modify a few members. That's it. So the rest of the thing the administrator need to do is just load the devices in, and it will carry the same settings as before. So similarly to the networks, so you would have an option to which allows you to clone a network from, let's say, organization A, and move it over or copy it over to network B or organization B, so you wouldn't have to redo it again. We have features that are more or that are coming for the MSP portal, such as single sign-on for MSP team management. So at the moment, if you want to add a member on EnGenius Cloud for them to be an administrator or viewer, you have to send an invite to them. They receive an invite via email, and they're going to have to register on EnGenius Cloud. But what if you already have your existing database, such as Windows Active Directory? All your members are there, all the policies are there. So when we roll out this update, you can just link your existing Windows Active Directory to EnGenius Cloud's MSP single sign-on portal. And then from there, they can use your existing credentials from your Windows AD server. So it'd be a lot easier. They no need to register under EnGenius Cloud. Everything would be seamless and automatic. So from here, you can also easily track who this person is, cross-check it with your Windows AD, set the policies, which organizations or networks they can manage, etc. So it will be a lot simpler. We're going to start with the Windows AD single sign-on for EnGenius Cloud MSP Portal, but in the future, we'll be expanding it more as well to support other authentication servers. Firmware management, like I mentioned, this one is a big thing for some, because for some end users, they operate 24/7. If your schedule is every week, that's a default for EnGenius Cloud, then some clients may have a hard time adjusting from there. So on EnGenius Cloud, we have an option called New Firmware Trial Zone, which would allow you to add specific APs on that list. And then from there, if there's an update, it's going to update that specific AP first, and then the rest would be updated 3 weeks later. So that's used for trials, firmware trials, beta access, so they can check features that are coming. Through the MSP portal, you have, however, an option to have an annual maintenance. So what does annual maintenance mean? So that means in a span of 1 year, 365 days, you can just allot 1 week of maintenance period. So ahead in time, maybe 3 months before, 4 months, 6 months before, you can already inform your end user that we'll be doing a maintenance to make sure that all your devices are up to date. They're patched with the latest security settings. They're patched with the latest features on EnGenius Cloud. You have a lot of lead time, or you have a lot of buffer to inform your client that this is the date we're doing the maintenance. So in the span of 1 year, no devices will be updated on all the organizations or the organization that you have selected to be part of this portal. So everything would be on hold. until that specific week where you set the upgrades to happen. So if even if you're using an older firmware, when it comes to the annual maintenance, then that's going to time that it's going to be triggered. So 1 year is a lot of buffer already to inform the client that this is the downtime that we're going to do annual maintenance to update the system and so on. But in any point in time, you can still upgrade the firmware if needed. Maybe if we have critical bugs that needs to be addressed, or we have certain features that the end user wants to test out. So you can still continue to upgrade them, even if you're on that 1 year maintenance period. So this makes it a lot easier for clients to, again, manage or schedule maintenance periods between the end user, especially if they're operating 24/7. So let me go through the user interface to show you a bit about the current features that we have under the MSP portal. Let me just reshare the screen. I see some people raising their hands. I'll be going over your questions later on. In the meantime, you can type it on chat or use the Q&A function in Zoom. So like I mentioned, MSP Portal, this has been added, I believe, a couple of weeks back or maybe 3 weeks. So that's the icon right here on the left-hand side. For some of you guys, you wouldn't be able to see this view yet because you need to key in a license. The MSP Portal, for some of you guys' view, it would show as please key in a license or please request for an invite from an MSP administrator to see the view. So licenses I'll talk about later on. But essentially, once you have that unlocked, then this would be your view for the MSP portal. So here under my MSP portal, I've added 2 organizations. So across those orgs, I have 10 devices, 2 gateways, 4 switches, and 4 access points. So here I can quickly see if there are devices that already are expired in terms of the pro license. AP side, I have 1. Switch side, I have a couple that's about to expired, and then there's 1 here that's already expired. Gateway information I have as well. So depending on what devices, this diagram may change as well. So here on the bottom part, then I can see on all organizations, or I can also narrow down the view to specific ones to view which one has, for example, an AP that's already expired or an AP that's about to expire. So I can view that here as well. So from here, I can quickly navigate to this orgs to manage the inventory. So under the dashboard, under my team members, so here I have my custom groups. I believe I have created a few here. Let me just double check. Actually, I just added MSP administrators. So MSP administrators, when you add them here, these are your super admins. Essentially, they would have the overall view of your MSP portal. They would have access to the MSP portal, and they would see whatever I'm seeing right now under here. So in terms of licensing for MSP portal, we require an MSP license. I don't have the pricing yet right now, unfortunately. But we'll roll this out maybe next month in terms of the price. But for the MSP license, it's a bit different from our pro license. MSP license is required just, you just need 1 MSP license per company. And there's no limit on how many clients you can add here, how many staff members, which you can add under the MSP administrator. For example, you're a big company with 50 clients. Sorry, you're a big company with maybe 50 staff. And all those staff, you want them to access your MSP portal, you can just add them in. So from there, they can manage your team members. They can manage the team privileges. You can create custom groups. So in terms of the custom groups, so for instance, let me add a team. So let's name this team admin. So let's say I want them to be an admin. I want this group to be administrator for all the orgs, or if I want to customize it, then I can see how I could customize it. So for example, here, my existing org, maybe I want all of them to be an admin on a specific organization. Excuse me. Or maybe just an admin for a specific networks. So I can do so. So I can easily change that. So here, I'm managing them across multiple orgs. So let's say, for example, I want to make everyone an admin for test. And then under 3rd floor as well. So apply that on my custom group. So once I add a new member, so for example, test. Now for my custom group, which I have my drop down right here, I have added my alternate account. So this alternate account, once I log into EnGenius Cloud, I would then have access to the customized group that I just did, which is an admin for test and an admin for third floor, which are on different organizations. So it's as simple as that. So you can now add your or manage multiple members across multiple orgs. Now, for inventory and licensing, you have your option here to see immediately which devices are about to expire or which devices are already expired, so I can quickly plan out if I need to have my end user updated with a pro license, depending on whether they want to use a feature or not. So this is displayed across all my organizations right now. So I have two. So these are all the devices across different orgs. If I want to view the license status, I can also see that right here. So once you have added, let's say, a pro license for the AP and switch, you can also see the current duration, when it was issued, if the status is canceled, expired, or active. So you can see that right away. And then if I want to add more organizations on this list, I can easily add it right here. So the organizations that you can add under your MSP portal would require to have a full pro plan. So what does that mean? So that means if I go to my inventory or an organization, you have your feature plan right here. So that means all the feature plan must be set to pro. Doesn't matter if you have, let's say, devices under that or not. Let's say right now I don't have a switch. So you just have to set it to pro for that org to be selectable under your MSP portal. So once I set everything to pro there, I would be able to add those different orgs on my list and add them on my overall view as well on the dashboard. And then my option to clone different organizations and networks are here as well. So for instance, I want to clone this organization and then I want to move it to a new organization. Let's name it new org. So all the settings under Milo Reserve would be ported over to new org. If you have, let's say, 100 networks under this new org would also create 100 networks with all those settings in place. If you want to clone a network, you can easily do that from again one network to another. So just select which network you want to clone and then type in the new org name. So in the future, we'll be adding an option to to copy a network from one organization to another. So right now you can only copy and then transfer it to a new organization. So for the other functions like single sign-on, as well as the option to delay the firmware, that's not in place yet, but we target the release of those features by October. So in October, you should see more options right here under MSP Portal. And as usual, we'll still continue to expand these functions depending on the requirement of the clients, depending on the feedback, as well as certain optimizations that we want to apply would show here as well. Okay, one question here regarding the admin. I'm assuming this is regarding the MSP admin. So can an admin added to an organization via team privileges remove the overall MSPs from the org? So we have this hierarchy for the MSP portal. Let me share the page again. So we have two tiers of multi-tenancy. So first is under organization, which is what we have as usual. So let's say, for example, under this organization, these are my team members. So here I have these admins. So these admins only have access to this specific organization that I have. Or for example, the networks under that. If I have my MSP portal, they can only see that organization view unless I have added them as a member as well of my MSP administrator group. Now, this MSP administrator list are like your super admins who can view your MSP portal, which can view multiple organizations that are under that. Now, these super admins can also modify the team management per org as well as team privileges. So question here is, can an MSP administrator via team privileges remove an overall MSP for the org? So admins under here would not be able to modify your admins here unless they are actually on this list. So people on this list would be able to override any configuration that are configured by the admins under here, so long as they're managing the same set of organizations. So essentially, MSP administrators wouldn't be a super admin unless they have access to these orgs already. Okay, another question in terms of single sign-on, would it be able to support Azure AD? So we'll be starting with Windows Active Directory in October, but hopefully we can expand as well to other services such as Google LDAP, as well as Windows Azure Active Directory as well, or Microsoft Azure Directory. There's a question here, but I think it's related to something else. So can EnGenius access points run in router mode with PPPoE? So all our access points does not have a WAN port. They only have a LAN port. And it doesn't have a router function in terms of connecting to an ISP via PPPoE. But we do have SD-WAN gateways available if you need that in the market. Question here about the views. Is there an option to customize a view for customers? So yeah. So let's say under your team members under your MSP teams, maybe you create another team called, let's say, end clients to make it simple right now, or end users. And then I want to set their view to viewer, or let's say let's customize it because we don't have want to give them access to all your orders. So let's say this is customer A. So under my end user group, I can then set a viewer access to different networks that they have. So let's say this whole organization is theirs. So maybe I want them to be a viewer here. And then maybe under reserve, I only want them to give access to, or I only want to give access to them to one of these networks. So let's say network test, I set them as a viewer, apply. So the members that I add under the end user group, which I can select from here, would then only have viewing rights or read-only rights for the specific organizations that I have keyed in or specific orgs. MSP Portal, can it support local AD or LDAP? So once we launch it in October, it's going to support local Windows Active Directory first, and in the future we'll be expanded. We'll be expanding it as well. So just let us know if there is a specific database server that you're currently using. Maybe like a while ago, somebody raised Azure Active Directory or maybe Google LDAP. So then we can try to analyze whether we can add this in the future or not. But yeah, we're starting off with Microsoft Active Directory. So another question here, only pro license org can be seen under the MSP portal. That's correct. So under your MSP portal, let me go back to the org list. So the org list would display all the organizations that you're managing if they are on the pro licenses. So let's say, for example, you're managing all these organizations, but not all of them have pro license enabled. Maybe some of your clients are under or are managing them under basic. So for your org list to be displayed here in an overall view, together with your licenses, then the organization must first be set to pro. So that means under AP feature plan, switch gateway, upcoming product PDU, just set it to pro, and then that organization would be selectable under your dashboard as well. So you can add it on your dashboard so that you can view everything in a glance, your device count, your team member for management, as well as your licenses and inventory. There's a question here under for the gateway. EnGenius Gateway, if you have two WAN ports, which we have right now, does it support PPPoE with the same VLAN? But I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but if you're asking if both WANs can support PPPoE through different ISPs, it can do that, no issues. So let's say ISP 1, VLAN 1, or maybe there's no VLAN at all. So ISP 1 using PPPoE, you can dial up using that, and then ISP 2 using PPPoE as well. So you can independently dial out as well to there. Now on your interface, as on your LAN ports, then you can customize your VLAN routes. Maybe port 1 of your LAN, you have VLAN, your ISP 1 there, port 2, ISP 2, etc. So you can trunk it as well, and then maybe do your VLAN tagging under your switches. Okay, there's a question about licensing. So I want to clarify one thing for the MSP portal. So currently we have pro licenses, which are per individual access points, switches, and gateways. Now the MSP license, again, I don't have the pricing yet. It's a separate license, but you only need one license across all your company. So it's like one company would only require one MSP license. Now, once you have this MSP license applied, then all your staff would have access to this MSP dashboard. So this is different from the licenses that are under here, under your inventory. So the pro licenses would unlock pro features. MSP license would unlock the MSP portal. Of course, not everyone would need the MSP portal. I'm assuming only those who are managing multiple organizations, those who are juggling between different orgs, instead of having to go through different organizations just to configure it, you can now manage them directly straight from your MSP portal. Okay, going back to the question about the VLANs with PPPoE. So example is WAN 1 running PPPoE and the ISP requires VLAN 500. WAN 2 running PPPoE, that client also requires, sorry, that ISP also requires VLAN 500. So as long as there's two separate ISPs, there's no issue there. Even if there's the same VLAN, that's fine on the WAN side. For the LAN side, it's still the same as before. You can separate which path goes where. But yeah, in terms of the VLAN on the ISP side, let me just go to that view. So let's say you have both WAN 1 and WAN 2 enabled. So no issue in setting your VLAN ID here. Because some ISPs, maybe they're providing fiber services. And then maybe VLAN 500 is for their internet service. VLAN 50 is for their VoIP if they have a line included. So yeah, you can customize a VLAN ID, and it doesn't matter if both are the same right here, so long as they're connecting to two actual different ISPs or two different connections. It can be the same ISP, just a different PPPoE connection. That can happen as well. Okay, so any other questions in terms of the MSP portal? So MSP Portal is already active right now, but again, licensing won't be available till maybe end of this month. And then for the other features that will include for the MSP Portal, so that would be available by October. Okay, so here's the example as what is being asked. So if you want both WANs to connect, let's say using PPPoE, I don't have a dial-up name right now, so I really can't put that in, but you can do so even if they are on the same VLANs. Will the MSP portal be available in the demo site? So that's a good question. So yeah, the MSP portal should be available in the demo site as well, but I believe our marketing team is still arranging that. So let's double check. Our demo site, by the way, can be accessed through EnGenius.ai. I'm not sure if I'm still sharing my correct screen here. So from EnGenius.ai, our cloud microsite, you can then go to demo, which will bring you to a demo page for EnGenius Cloud. So once you're in the demo link, you can navigate through our different functions here on the cloud. And yeah, MSP Portal is actually here. Oh, sorry. They have added MSP Portal, but I guess they haven't enabled it yet under the demo page. But yeah, our team is working on enabling that here as well, so that you can also view what are the functions, what are the features that are there under MSP Portal, and then maybe from there you can assess whether you need us or not. Especially if you're managing multiple networks or multiple organizations right now. So it is there on the demo site, but it's not enabled yet, unfortunately. But if you need to preview it, you can contact any of our salesperson, depending on which region you are, so that they could demo it to you. So I already provided access to everyone in the team, so they should be able to show you their view of the MSP portal. But yeah, on the demo site, you'd be able to navigate everything and see what are the functions and features on EnGenius Cloud. Okay, so any more questions? If you need to review this webinar, again, I'll be uploading on YouTube. Hopefully, I can accomplish that within the week. And then it's also going to be available under our EnGenius Academy page as well for under the webinar archives. Okay, one question here is about notifications. Will the MSP portal be able to, or will the MSP be able to configure notifications? Wait, let me go back to the dashboard. Okay, so under the MSP portal, I'm not able to configure notifications yet. But again, since this is a new function, we'll slowly port over the features from individual orgs, individual networks, going to the MSP portal. If you have any feedback on what specific items you want to view, you can let us know so that you can easily, or so that we can review and assess whether we can add this feature under the MSP portal or on the cloud or not. So like, for example, those alerts, if you want to manage them all together, maybe you want to enable or disable all the alerts under all your organizations. So those types of requests, so we can assess and analyze for you. So you can just feedback the request to our sales team or our regional staff so that they would provide us the feedback and then we can relay to HQ. But yeah, those are certain features that we may be adding in the future, like alert configuration, maybe bulk SSID configuration as well. But yeah, do stay tuned for that. Firmware upgrade, yeah, it's not available yet, which is why I can't show you guys. We'll be launching that sometime October, if I'm not mistaken. So by October, then you would be able to schedule the MSP firmware upgrade information. Again, for the firmware upgrade under your MSP portal, you can set a maintenance within a span of 1 year. So again, for example, 1 year, no upgrade at all, and then maybe you're configuring one maintenance period in a week of October, or maybe January or February, maybe second week of February. This is when your maintenance period will happen, and then this is the time that your devices will upgrade. Maybe on during that week, every 2 a.m. and so on and so forth. All the access points will check the system if there's a new firmware available, switches to gateways. So you can set that individually as well. So I just can't show you the user interface right now because they haven't enabled it under the production site. If no more questions, or if somebody came in late and you haven't thought of your question yet, you can just ask our partners. You can ask our distributors as well, or our regional sales team as well. Oh, sorry. There's one a person asking on what type of traffic can we see per user. Let me just navigate through the clients list again. I think you're asking about application analysis. Is that correct? So yeah, under here, under the individual client list, I would be able to see which application the person have access in terms of bandwidth consumption. Like for example, DHCP from the network, IGMP, AnyDesk, Teams, and so on, Windows updates. So I would be able to see that per individual client. So as of the moment, this is part of our basic function. So no need for a pro license for that. You can view a 24-hour overview of the application list per client. So if you want to see, let's say, for example, the weekly consumption or the monthly consumption, then that's the only time we'll require the pro function. So here's another comment regarding the MSP portal. Maybe there should be some reporting function as well under the MSP portal to be customized as a whole. So yeah, good suggestion as well. We'll take that into consideration. Okay, is the features here also available on on-premise EnGenius? I think the question is regarding EnGenius Fit. So EnGenius have two independent solutions. So one is EnGenius Cloud, which I'm showing right now, and then we have another solution called EnGenius Fit. So under EnGenius Fit, we have slightly different functions there. It's customizable, but it's a bit different on EnGenius Cloud because for EnGenius Fit, you can only have one organization under here, but you can have multiple networks. For EnGenius Cloud, you can have different networks that you're managing independently per client. So I believe the MSP portal would only be applicable under EnGenius Cloud since you have more clients to manage, different organizations that you're juggling, which you can easily view under the MSP page. But yeah, what I'm showing right now is only for EnGenius Cloud. Oh, by the way, if you need information on our on-premise solution, which is EnGenius Fit, we already have that archived under YouTube or under our EnGenius Academy page, so you can learn more about it. Does EnGenius Fit have a demo as well? Yeah, we do have a demo for EnGenius Fit. You can access it through fit.engenius.ai. So that would give you access to Fit Express Web. So go to fit.engenius.ai. If you need a demo access link, you can let our sales team know so that they could provide you the demo login information. We also have a demo for a Fit controller. Sorry, let me see if that's available right now. Because under Fit, we have two controllers. So Fit Express, which is app-based and cloud-based. And then we have FitCon 100, which is the hardware-based management system. So for Fit Express, it's fit.engenius.ai. And then if you want to access the Fit controller itself, that would be through fitcon-demo.engenius.ai. So EnGenius Fit, does it have this feature MSP portal? Unfortunately, no, because for EnGenius Fit, there's only one organization that you can manage, just different networks. While under EnGenius Cloud, you can have unlimited number of organizations under that. So managing those under the MSP portal would be really helpful. Okay, there's one question here about API. We're doing API SDK to link third-party software. Does this allow the MSP to link to API SDK? In GS Cloud right now, you can manage this through API as well. We have our API information. If you need to integrate with a third-party software for API integration, please let us know. Just approach any of our distributors or our regional sales team so that we can gather specific information and provide you the correct information as well in terms of the API. Okay, so if no further question, I guess that concludes our session for today. So I'll be uploading this on YouTube hopefully by the end of the week, and again to be followed under EnGenius Academy. Next schedule for the webinar, I believe Nancy, our product manager, have already rolled it out, and it's going to be about Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7, if I'm not mistaken. So do stay tuned for that. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. You all have a good week ahead. Bye bye.